Bien, bien. Hola, ¿cómo están?
Bien.
Bien.
Bueno, hoy estoy fuera. I am outside. I'm in my outdoor table under my umbrella. I hope that the noises out here are not bothersome. If they are, you tell me. And I'll move inside, but I was so enjoying the weather and how nice it's out here that I decided I'll give it a shot. So we're gonna start with learning how to ask the date in Spanish. And we already know, that fecha means date. And there are two ways to ask the date in Spanish. You can start with, which is the date of today? Or a simpler one is, what is the date? And these questions that I'm highlighting are very important to memorize. So start memorizing them separately rather than all together. So cuál means which, and qué means what, and hoy means today. So we're going to repeat these questions, and then one of you is going to ask the date, and one of you is going to tell the date. So, repitan. ¿Cuál es la fecha de hoy?
¿Cuál es la fecha de hoy?
And make sure you inflect the question to signify a question. Inflection is very important in language communication. So raise the volume and the sound a little bit, like so. Repita. ¿Cuál es la fecha de hoy?
¿Cuál es
la fecha de hoy?
Muy bien. Repitan. ¿Qué fecha es?
¿Qué fecha es?
And noting how we're saying is one of the forms of the verb ser, meaning is, which is the date of today. What is today? What is the date today? And so the answer would be, repitan, hoy es el 3 de septiembre
El 3 de septiembre. Septiembre.
del año 2020.
Del año 2020.
So I want Mark to ask the question and I want Jenny to answer it. Mark, pick each one of these. ¿Cuál es la fecha de hoy? O ¿qué fecha es? And then Jenny is going to tell us the date. Okay, Mark?
¿Qué fecha es?
Hoy es el 3 de septiembre del año 2020.
2000, right? 2020. Muy bien. Gracias, Mark. Y gracias, Jenny. Muy bien. Very well. My greeting to you today is buenas tardes. ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal? So we're always asking ¿cómo estás? And others, but this one is also very common. And if you go to your page 38, magical number, because that's where all your vocabulary is and the one that you need to be consulting and learning. ¿Qué tal is translated as how are you or how is it going? And it's very difficult to translate it literally because tal means such. And it's almost like saying, what's happening, what's shaking, right? And so, repitan, ¿qué tal?
¿Qué tal?
¿Qué tal?
So Josie, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué tal? ¿Qué tal, Josie? How's it going? ¿Qué tal?
¿Qué tal? Sorry. Muy bien, gracias.
Ajá, excelente. Muy bien, Josie. Buen trabajo. Good job. Buen trabajo. And what I have to tell you, if somebody asks me, somebody go ahead and ask me, ¿qué tal, profesora? Someone.
¿Qué tal?
¿Qué tal, profesora?
Excelente, gracias, Josie y Jenny. Y mi respuesta es, hace sol. It's sunny. Hace sol. ¿Sí? Repitan, hace sol.
Asesor.
So,
Sí, it's been raining and cloudy and the sun came out. So that's what's going on here in this neck of the woods. I call my house the 1 acre wood because it's actually 1 acre. My house is sitting in 1 acre and it's surrounded by wood. So I call it the 1 acre wood. Excelente, buen trabajo. So hoy, today, vamos a repasar los números 0 al 30 y el verbo ser, which we started learning last class. And so let me take you to that page. Let me see if it's below here somewhere. How do I get there? All right, let's go here, retext. And we want los números. And remind me while I'm looking for them. What is the difficult part about learning the numbers? Saying them? I told you last class that saying them, many of you have been saying them since kindergarten, right? Or you learn them with Sesame Street or something. But what was the difficult part? Remember? What's the difficult part? Remember that
I don't think we haven't gone over any numbers.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm confusing you with another class. Okay, so what happened here is that the numbers, when we say them, we know them and it's easier to remember them, but spelling them is the challenge. Notice, for instance, the difference between seis and siete. The E and the E reverse places, and it's the same here, right? Any derivatives of 6 and 7 are going to have that difference. And then if you notice from 16 to 19, the first syllable is EE. And then look what happens from 20 to 30. What the E and the E are reversed. So here you have EE and here you have AE. So what these are some tips I'm telling you to remember them and to write a note and be aware of them. And the best way to remember them is to just write them out. Write them out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. And so we're going to repeat after me. And then we're going to have you say them 1 by 1, and then we're going to say them 2 by 2s, and then we're going to say them 3 by 3s. Okay? Repitan. 0.
0.
1.
1,
2.
2,
3.
3,
4.
4,
5.
5,
6.
6,
7.
7,
8.
8,
9.
9,
9,
10.
10.
So many of you already knew 1 to 10. See? See? Now let's move on to the 11 to 20. Repitan. 11.
11,
12.
12,
13.
13,
14.
14,
15.
15,
16.
16,
17.
17,
18.
18,
19.
19,
20.
20,
And then when we put 20 and 1 and 2 and 3 together, esta E cambia, changes to E. So the pronunciation is different, is no longer 20, is 20, 20. So repitan, 21,
21,
1,
22,
22,
23,
23,
24,
24,
25,
25,
26,
26,
27,
27,
27,
28,
28,
29,
29,
30.
30.
So now I want all of you by yourselves, and to keep the rhythm, I'm going to be pointing at the number. So you start, and then I'll point to keep the rhythm. And so one by one, start with 0. Go ahead.
0,
1,
1,
2,
2,
2,
3,
3,
4,
4,
4,
5,
5,
5,
6,
10,
6,
6,
6,
7,
7,
8,
8,
8,
9,
9,
9,
10,
10,
11,
11,
11,
12,
12,
13,
13,
13,
14,
14,
15,
15,
15,
it's not quince, it's quince.
15,
15,
15,
16,
16,
16,
Repitan,
16,
16,
16,
16,
17,
17,
18,
19,
19,
20,
20,
21,
21,
22,
22, 23,
23, 24,
24,
25,
25, 26,
26,
27,
27,
28,
28,
29,
29, 30.
30.
And one
Okay.
thing that you should learn by now, from now on, the V in Spanish is pronounced like a B in English. So we don't aspirate the V, we say it like a B as in boy. So it's 21, 22, 23. Okay, so and make sure that this is clearly 20, 20. Again,
21,
21,
22,
23,
24,
25,
26,
26,
27,
27,
28,
29,
30.
30.
bravo, muy bien, excelente. So now to make it more interesting, we're gonna go by twos. So we'll start with 0 and we'll skip 1 and go to 2, and then we'll go to 4 and so forth, right? Okay,
Okay.
so start with 0.
0,
0,
2,
4,
4,
6,
8,
8,
10,
10,
12,
12,
14,
14, 16,
18, 20,
22, 24,
26,
28,
30.
30.
30, muy bien. By threes. 0,
0,
3,
6,
Nueve,
12,
doce, 15, 18,
18,
21,
24,
24, 27, 30.
Muy bien, bravo. And now we're just gonna say the tricky ones. After me, repitan, 6,
6,
16,
16,
26.
26,
Now by yourselves.
6,
26,
26. Repitan after me. 7,
7,
17,
17,
27.
27,
Ustedes, you all, ustedes.
7,
7,
17,
Oh, that was a little. Repitan, 17.
17,
27,
Muy bien. So keep working with those. And actually, let me erase this before eraser. So someone tell me again, what is the hard part of learning the numbers? Spelling. There are really one thing right now that refers to numbers that might be tricky, but really is not that big of a deal. When the numbers, like it says here, are counting, used for counting, simply standing as nouns, as numbers, they don't describe how many of something, they are all like so masculine, and they remain uno, 21, etc. However, if you are telling how many of something, meaning you're going to have a noun after it, the número uno, when it's placed before a masculine noun, it shortens to un. You drop the O. You drop the O only when it's before a masculine noun. And when it goes before feminine nouns, it's feminized to una. So you have here a masculine noun, hombre, which means a man. And then the número uno in this formula applies to any number that ends in uno. So 21 ends in uno, and then when we learn higher numbers, we'll know that 31, 41, 61 follows this same rule. You drop the O, and so not just uno, but any derivative of uno before a masculine noun is reduced to uno. You drop to un, you drop the O. So repitan, un hombre.
un hombre,
21 hombres.
21 hombres.
So do any of you by any chance is 21? Anyone in the
I'm
class?
21.
Chandler. So when you tell your age, and you're gonna say years, right? And remember the years is very important to put the ñ. And años is a masculine noun. So you're gonna say 21 años. You're not gonna say 21, you're gonna say 21 años. So if I ask you, how old are you, Chandler? What are you going to say?
21 años.
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 Excellent. If you don't pronounce this correctly, especially with this particular word, if you leave it without the ñ, it means a part of the body that people usually don't want to talk about. Okay? And you definitely do not have 21 of those. So make sure that you pronounce the ñ. Repitan, años.
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 Go like this. Ñ.
Yeah.
Pretend you are one of those oxes or the yaks that go like ñ, right? And so does it feel weird to make that sound?
A little bit.
So if it feels weird, Jenny, then you're doing it right. Why do you think? Because you're doing something that is not familiar. So even if it feels weird, embrace the weirdness because that means that you're doing it correctly. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's change this to chico. What is a chico?
A girl.
Nope.
Boy.
Chico
No,
with
boy.
an
A
O.
boy.
Uh-huh. And then we can also have it plural. And how do we pluralize nouns that end in an O or in a vowel?
Goodness.
And
An S. So you tell me 1 chico, 21 chicos. How do we say that?
un chico.
Un chico and
21 chicos.
excelente. Repitan, un chico.
Un chico.
Un chico.
21 chicos.
21
chicos.
All right. So questions about this issue with el número uno. It's something that you must keep in mind. Remember this rule. It applies only to the number uno. And so the other aspect of it is that if it happens to be describing how many of a feminine noun, when it's una or any derivative of una, when the noun is feminine, it has to be feminized. Repitan, una mujer.
Una mujer.
mujer.
Mujer is a woman, right? 21 mujeres.
21
mujeres.
Mujeres.
So now let's change chico to the feminine version. What is chico in feminine?
Chica.
Chica.
Chica and the plural.
Chicas.
Chicas.
So now tell me 1 girl and 21 girls in Spanish.
Una chica.
Una chica.
Una chica.
21 chicas.
Una chicas.
21 chicas. Preguntas, questions on this particular rule? No? No, all right, don't forget it. It may appear somewhere in your homework. So now the 2 other things that come with numbers is that we're gonna need the question word how many, because usually we use numbers when we reply how many of something. And so cuántos means how many before masculine nouns, and cuántas before feminine nouns. So we have 2 words for how many, one that reflects masculine nouns and one that reflects feminine nouns. And the last thing for this is the Spanish equivalent of both there is and there are, both of them, is I, as in the I that we see with. Don't ever pronounce it hey. It's not hey, it's I. Repitan, I. Nothing, you say no I. No I.
No.
No,
No
I.
I.
To make it fun, let me see here. We have the participants. Tenemos 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Tenemos 10 chicas, 10 girls. So let me ask you, ¿cuántas chicas hay en la clase? So you would start with I and then the number, right? So I, and then how many did I say? 10, 10.
Yes.
So say, hay 10 chicas en la clase.
Hay
Hay
10
Yes, chicas
en la
clase.
There are 10 girls in the class. So let me ask you again. ¿Cuántas chicas hay en la clase?
Hay 10
Hay
10
10 chicas en la clase.
Muy bien. Now let's count the guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 chicos. So, which one of these two words do we want to use to ask how many guys?
¿Cuántos?
¿Cuántos? So we would say, ¿cuántos chicos hay en la clase? Right? So repitan, ¿cuántos chicos
¿Cuántos
Chicos.
hay en la clase?
hay
La clase.
¿Sí?
Entonces, William, ¿cuántos chicos hay en la clase?
I'm sorry, what was that? My mic is messing up. Or
¿Cuántos
my-
chicos hay en la clase? We said that there were 8. ¿Cuántos chicos hay en la clase?
Has ocho estudiante en
Chicos.
la clase.
Chicos, en la clase.
Chicos.
So,
Chicos.
let me ask the entire class. ¿Cuántos chicos hay en la clase?
Hay
Ocho
chicos
En la clase.
Ah, muy bien. We could have done this exercise, which we are, but I wanted to make it interesting and more relevant to the present moment and to you all. Entonces, hay 10 chicas y 8 chicos en la clase. So let's change it to ¿cuántos estudiantes hay en la clase total? ¿Cuántos estudiantes hay en la clase?
18.
Hay 17.
18
18
Hay
estudiantes en la
18.
clase.
Ajá. Una vez más, ¿cuántos estudiantes hay en la clase?
Hay
Hay
10
estudiantes
18 estudiantes en la clase.
Excelente. Muy bien. So now we're going to move to this exercise, which is very similar. I'm going to be telling you what type of exercise might be similar in the test. And so we're going to do these together. And first, let's go over the model. 5 más 3 son 8. The way we say plus is más. Repitan, más.
Más.
Equals would be son, right?
Son.
So let's repeat the model. 5 más 3
Cinco
más
Más 3
son
son
8.
8.
I'm gonna model one and then I'm gonna ask some of you to do the rest. 2 más 15 son 17. Let me get my. Repitan, 2 más 15
Dos
más
más
15
15
son
son
17.
17.
17.
Okay, muy bien. Mark, número 2. Give it a try.
So you want me to answer or read it?
I want you to read it. 5 más 7 son... Tada.
5 más 7 son 12.
12. Excelente. Gracias, Mark. Muchas gracias. Josie. Oh, and before we go, the way we say minus is very similar. Menos. Repitan. Menos.
Menos.
So Josie, try número 3.
5 más 3 son.
No, número 3. Número 3.
So,
20.
5 más 3 son.
No, we're here at number 3. Can you see this number 3, Josie?
Yeah, sorry.
20 minus 1. So repeat after me. I'll help you out.
Okay, thank you.
Repeat. 20 menos 1
20
menos. No.
son. Clase, ¿qué son?
19.
9. So all by yourself now, Josie.
Okay.
Número 3.
Sorry.
20
20
menos 1
menos 1
son 19.
son 19.
Muy bien, gracias. Jenny, número 4.
18 más 12 son 30.
30. Muy bien, repitan clase. 18 más 12
Más 12
son 30.
son
Son
30.
30.
Let me see what else I have here. I forget. Alexis, número 3. Número 5.
3 más 22 son 25.
Clase, repitan. 3 más 22
3
más 22
Son 25.
son
son 25.
25.
Muy bien. Mark, número 6.
6 menos 3 son 3.
Muy bien. Repitan. 6 menos 3 son 3.
6
menos
menos 3 son 3.
Casey, número 7, por favor.
11 más 12 son 23.
Excelente, gracias. Repitan. 11 más 2 son 23.
11
más
2 son
12
23.
son 23.
23.
Christopher, número 8.
8 más 5 son 13.
Excelente, gracias. Chandler, número 9.
7 menos 1, 2. Sorry, I had to think in my head. I'll start over. 7 menos dos. Son cinco.
5, muy bien. Y let's see, who wants to do the last one? Austin. Austin, número 10.
23 menos 15
14.
son 14 son 9.
¿Clase es correcto?
Correcto.
¿Sí? Repitan.
Sí.
23 menos 14.
23
menos
menos 14 son
Son 9.
9.
9.
9.
Excelente. Muy bien. So before we move on, I want to hear your beautiful voices saying the Spanish numbers from 1 to 30. Starting with 0, por favor. 0.
0,
0,
1,
1,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
7, 8,
8,
9,
9,
10,
11,
11,
12,
13,
13,
13,
14,
14,
15,
15,
16,
16,
17,
18,
19,
18,
19,
19,
29,
21,
21,
22,
23,
23,
4,
4,
25,
26, 27, 28,
28,
29.
29,
30.
30.
Oh,
I couldn't hear myself think.
Bravo, bravo. Entonces, recuerden, remember, saying them not that hard, spelling them a little bit trickier. Preguntas, questions, problemas, no? All right. Knowing the numbers and knowing how to spell them is very important because we're going to learn how to tell time. And we usually use the numbers from 1 to 30 because we typically say the time from the hour until past the half hour. So it's 30 minutes. And then we subtract to the following hour. So we're going to be using these numbers quite a bit. And you're going to have to know how to spell them, right? So did we go over this yesterday or did we just go over the subject pronouns? I mean, Tuesday.
we went over that Tuesday.
Okay,
Yeah, we went over
that's
that.
what I thought. That's what I thought. So I also show you my table on the folder on Blackboard where you have grammar explanations where the meanings for all these are a little better. No, they're not better explained. They're just expanded in explanation. So right now, just know that usted is abbreviated here with ude, punto, ustedes, like so. So we're gonna say the subject with the form of the verb ser together after me. Repitan. Yo soy.
Yo
soy.
Tú eres.
Tú
Tú
eres.
eres.
Usted es.
usted
es.
Él es.
él
Él
es.
Ella es.
Ella
So who can tell me the translation for usted in English? Well, it says right here, right?
You are. Yeah, you
No,
are.
just usted, by
You.
itself.
you.
You, and what kind of you is
Formal
it?
you.
It's
Formal.
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 Formal you.
Él with an accent means,
He,
He.
and
He,
ella,
she,
and tú.
you.
What
Familiar.
kind of you?
Familiar.
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 Informal.
Yo, yo
I.
es I.
I.
But if we put it together with yo soy, then we're not just saying I, we're saying what?
I am.
I am.
So now let's do that. Yo soy.
Yo
Yo
soy.
soy.
Tú eres.
Ustedes.
Usted es.
Usted
Es.
Él es.
Él
Es.
Ella es.
ella
Es.
And so it's pretty easy to memorize it this way. And by all means, you have to not only memorize it, you have to have it tattooed to your brain. Because if you don't know these foundations, then you can't build your language home. So when it gets a little tricky is, when do I use this form? When do I, and then when we have combination of especially in the plural, we don't have necessarily pronouns, we have names of people. And also we get confused as to when to use you and when to use él or ella as a third party. And so you use you, either tú or usted, when you are addressing someone directly. Like think of first to second base, you are looking at them, you are asking them, how are you? How is it? How is your class, etc. So if you're addressing someone, you're either gonna use the tú or the usted, right? However, if you're speaking about someone, and that someone may or may not be present, then you would use the third person, él or ella, sí or no, right? Like, oh, he is really fun, you know, my roommate is really fun, right? So we're gonna have an exercise here where you're gonna practice that, addressing versus speaking about them. Think about that, those differences. When you address someone, you use the second person, you. When you talk about them, you use the third person, él or ella, when you're in the singular, and now we're moving to the plural forms. Repitan, nosotros.
Nosotros.
Nosotras.
Nosotras.
And this means we, right? And who from this table has to be in this group? For us to be we, who in this table has to be part of it?
Yo.
Yo. So that's why this one is called first person plural, because yo is part of them, right? And the reason we have two is that if we is of a mixed gender or all male, it's gonna be nosotros. We only use nosotras when all of we are females, okay? And this is the form of the verb for nosotros or nosotras. Repitan, nosotros somos.
Nosotros
somos.
Nosotras somos.
Nosotras
Somos.
And then we have the one that is only used in Spain. Only used in Spain, and is the you plural, informal, familiar or informal. So it's a second person you, informal. Repitan, vosotros. Sois. And then we have the you all that is used, the only one used, the you plural used in the rest of the world. Ustedes, repitan, ustedes. And then we have they, third party plural. Repitan, ellos.
Ellos.
Ella.
This would be for a mixed gender or all male group, and this will be for our only female group, okay? So let's repeat them again with the verb form. Repitan, nosotros somos.
Nosotros
Nosotros
somos.
somos.
Nosotros somos.
Nosotras somos.
Nosotras
somos.
Vosotros sois.
Vosotros sois.
Vosotras sois.
Vosotras sois.
Ustedes son.
Ustedes son.
Son.
Ellos son.
Ellos
Ellos.
son.
Ellas son.
Ellas son.
So note that some of the subjects have their own form of the verb. They do not share that form. That's why sometimes you can drop the subject. Anytime I put something in parentheses means you can drop it. You can start with soy de México. You don't have to say yo soy de México. By starting with soy de México, we already know that it's yo, right? And same here. Eres de Oklahoma, right? But these three do share the form of the verb. We have three subjects, one form of the verb. And in this case, unless you have already established the identity of the person, you will have to state it, okay? And so here, this is unique for nosotros and nosotras. This is unique for vosotros and vosotras. But here's where you might get into trouble, where they share the same form of the verb. And so you do have to state it, and you need to know who is who. Questions? Preguntas?
I have a question.
Chandler, dime, tell me.
So for the plural forms, nosotros.
Mhm.
So despite there being two different forms, a male and a female, you can just you can drop it and just say somos.
Yeah, because I think it would be understood, and many people do it. It would be
Okay,
understood.
I just wanted to make sure.
The gender, yes, absolutely. Unless you want to make an emphasis, you know, usually even with yo and tu, and in official writings, the president absolutely would use yo all the time because it provides legitimacy to his identity, right? And certainly if you're writing a formal letter, you want to state your first person yo, okay? See? All right, so good question, good question. Let me erase this before I move on to, I can't remember if we completed Inténtalo Tuesday or not. Did we do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. So then what we're gonna do now is go to here, to our activities, and go to present tense of ser. And we have pronombres. Is this the one I wanted to do? Let me see if this is the one. Okay, so this is a really good one. And did we do this in class?
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
No.
Okay.
No.
So choose the subject pronouns you would use to talk to these people directly and to talk about them. So to talk to people directly, you address them, you use the second person you, but if you talk about them, you use the third person, and they give you the example. Un joven, if you are addressing him directly, you use you, tú, but if you're talking about him, you use él. So, tenemos una chica. So which one of these would be the correct answer? The order is first to talk to them directly, and the second one to talk about them.
To ella.
Ella.
Oh, we did do this one.
Okay, then let's do another one.
Yeah, we did do it.
Which is, I think this is the one I was looking for. Let me back and go to practice because I did this with the earlier class. Oh, this is much better. Okay, so here you have addressing him and talking about it, same thing, but in this case, I'm gonna have to type up the answers for you. So el señor Díaz, you know, remember he is the superintendent of the building where Marisa is gonna stay. So if you're addressing him, what would you want to use?
Usted.
Usted.
Definitely. And if you're talking about him,
El.
él. Excelente. Muy bien. Okay, so now we have Jimena y Marisa, two girls. If you're addressing them, you would use the you plural. And if you were in Spain, you could definitely use that one. But we're not in Spain, and I could leave it in there and see if the software takes it. But I have a feeling it's gonna want the other one. Which one is the other one?
Ellas.
No, the you plural.
Usted.
Ellas is they. We want you.
Ustedes.
Ustedes.
This.
Ustedes. You all. And if we're talking about them,
Ellas.
Ellas.
very good. Very, very good. Maru is a girl. Miguel is a guy. If you're addressing them,
Ustedes.
Ustedes.
ustedes, muy bien. And if you're talking about them, girl and boy.
Ellos.
Hello.
Ellos.
Ellos.
Yeah, we take the male dominant. There you go. La profesora addressing her.
Usted.
Usted, talking about her.
Ella.
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 Un estudiante addressing him.
Two.
Tú.
Tú, muy bien, muy bien. Tú, y talking about him.
El.
El.
Excelente. Now, pay attention. El director de una escuela. The director of a school.
Escuela is school. Yeah.
Usted.
The director of a school.
Usted.
Usted.
Usted, y talking about him.
El.
El.
Él. And then tres chicas, three girls. Addressing them. If you were in
Ustedes.
Spain, you would say vosotras in Spain. And you know, I'm tempted to leave it in, but you're saying ustedes, right? See?
Ustedes.
Sí.
And I think that the right answer is ustedes, but I'm gonna leave vosotras just to see if the subword takes it. Talking about them.
Ellas.
Ellas.
Excelente. The next one, some of my students were a little, they debated. So if you're in a bus and you don't know someone, even if that someone, unless it's a little kid or something, I would always use the formal. With a stranger,
Usted.
always use the formal. So what do you want?
Usted.
Usted. Yeah, formal.
Usted, and then talking about him,
El.
él. And then we have Juan Carlos y Felipe, two guys.
Ustedes.
Ustedes.
Ustedes. And if you were in Spain, vosotros, right? But we're not in Spain. Talking about him.
Ellos.
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 Ellos, definite, because it's two guys. Una turista. Same thing, if you don't know her, use the formal.
Usted.
Usted.
Usted and
Ella.
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 ella. Let's see if it takes this vosotras here. Let's see, check. It did. It did. It did take it. In my class, earlier in my class, we put ustedes here and it also took it. Okay? Which is good because, you know, we're not supposed to overly emphasize the vosotros, and I already have a student in my upper level class saying that, you know, she was never taught vosotros and why should she now know it? I said, no, you don't have to necessarily know it, but you need to at least know about it, right? So I wanted to do a listening one, so we not just read words, but we listen. And so what you are going to listen is sentences without the subject, and you're going to select the proper subject pronoun. So if you hear son pasajeros, you're gonna select ellos, right? Because son, unless ustedes would also work, but since we're usually always talking about third parties, son pasajeros, you're not really addressing anyone, so ellos would be the right answer. And so I want you to listen to the first sentence carefully, and we're gonna do the first one, and I'm gonna pause. Listen carefully.
1. Somos turistas.
Somos turistas. Somos turistas. These are your choices. Somos turistas.
You'd use
Ellos.
do you want us to answer?
Nosotros.
Yeah.
I think it's nosotros.
It's nosotros. Yeah.
Nosotros.
Let me write. Am I gonna be able to put a text box in here? Let me write the forms. Soy, eres, es, somos, somos, sois, son. So singular on top. Maybe that will help. So let's continue.
Dos. Soy de Puerto Rico.
Soy de Puerto Rico. Número 2, soy de Puerto Rico. Soy de Puerto Rico.
Yo.
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 Muy bien, excelente, muy bien.
Tres. ¿De dónde eres?
¿De dónde eres? ¿De dónde?
Tú.
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 Muy bien, bravo, tú. ¿De dónde eres? It's addressing tú.
4. Es profesor.
Es profesor. 4, es profesor.
Ellos. Or
Sí.
ellos.
Or-
Sorry.
Él.
El.
William,
El.
él.
Por.
Sí, muy bien. Es profesor. Él es profesor.
Cinco. Son los lápices de Miguel.
Okay. Pay close attention. Son los lápices de Miguel. So they're telling the subject and the possessor, the subject, the verb, and the possessor. Miguel possesses the pencils. But is he the subject? Let's listen to it again. Let's see if I can rewind just enough.
5. Son los lápices de Miguel.
Remember that things can also be actors. Son los lápices de Miguel. Miguel is a guy.
Ellos.
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 Them the pencils, right? Muy
Yes.
bien. Excelente. Ellos los lápices. One more.
6. Ramón y yo somos de España.
Ramón y yo somos de España. Ramón and I are from Spain. Ramón y yo somos de España.
Nosotros.
Nosotros.
Nosotros, muy bien, Austin, excelente. So we got 100% score, and I want you to listen to it again.
1. Somos turistas. 2. Soy de Puerto Rico. 3. ¿De dónde eres? 4. Es profesor. 5. Son los lápices de Miguel. 6. Ramón y yo somos de España.
Preguntas.
Professor,
Sí,
can you explain number 5 again? I didn't really understand it.
okay. So number 5, if I remember correctly, can I type here now?
They were talking about the pencils.
Okay, so it said the number 5, the sentence was, son los lápices de Miguel. They're the pencils of Miguel. And so it couldn't be Miguel because they didn't use es. Miguel as a single third party would have needed this one. Was that Chandler?
Yes.
Uh-huh. So it couldn't be es because they were talking, the subject was the pencils. Because it
So
said,
since the subject was plural, you needed to use the plural.
sí,
ellos.
sí, muy bien.
Okay, that just makes
Excelente.
sense now.
Yes. Gracias por la pregunta. Thanks for the question. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to the time. Let me come back here to the time. So the time, the first thing you have to know is that in Spanish, the referent is the hour, la hora. And la hora is a feminine noun. And of course, we in the clock, we not only have 1 hour, we have many hours, right? We have 12 hours. So that's one thing to keep in mind, that you're gonna hear the plural, as Chandler was asking. When we talk about the hour beyond the first hour, when we talk about las dos, las tres, then it's gonna be son. We're gonna be using son because we're talking about them, the hours, okay? So first thing to note is that we are using the hour as a referent. We're gonna say it is the second hour, and then we're gonna add the minutes or subtract if it's past the half hour. And 2 important questions that you must begin to recognize, que versus a, is that this first question is asking you the hour, the time. What time is it, right? Repitan, ¿qué hora es?
¿Qué
¿Qué hora es?
So when you ask for the time, you just ask for the singular hour. ¿Qué hora es? What is the hour, right? What's the time? So I guess in military time, this would be okay to say, what's the hour, right? Because they do go by hours, don't they? And then this other question is different because this question is asking, at what hour is ... The ... is the event. At what time is the class, the concert, the wedding, the study time, etc. So very important to know that these two are asking for totally different information. And why do I make a big deal out of it? It's because when I ask this question, you answer with this form, you answer this question. And so they're two different questions, and pay attention to how it's done. And so let's see, we can go to our textbook here and show you the pages for, and we're about 10 minutes away, but I think I can begin get you started on the time. All right. So I already told you that to ask what time, you use qué hora es. When telling time, you use es plus la with una, right? Because we use the singular form of the verb, singular form of the article. And why is la? Because hora is feminine.
Feminine.
And una, because we're telling a feminine. Remember, we talked about uno and una. So if I was going to tell you it's one, I would just say es la una. If somebody asked me this,
¿Qué hora es?
Es la una. Es la una. Right here you have it. Es la una. And you're done.
Gracias.
Gracias. However, notice what happens when we go beyond la una. What changes? Tell me, what changes?
It's multiple, so you use the plural.
Excelente, Chandler. Muy bien. It's a plural noun, and now we have not 1 but 2 hours. And so we use the son, and then we use the plural feminine. Signify that is, and what is always going to be here invisible but implied is horas. This is my attempt at writing horas with my mouse. And it doesn't go there, sorry, my bad, eraser. Implied here is, after 2 is horas. Okay? You don't say it, but that's what it's saying. This is the whole reason why we have son and we have las, okay? And in official time, you remember when you used to call the, oh, you don't even, I'm showing my age. But maybe some of you have seen TV shows where they have the rotary phones, right? And we used to, you know, there used to be a number that you dialed and they would give you the official hour. And in that case, that they might state hours. They might say, son las 2:20. And we usually don't say minutos either, but when we add minutes, they are also going to be invisible, but they'll be there, stated in number. So, repitan, es la una.
Es la una.
Son las 2.
Son
las dos.
Son las dos.
Son las 6.
Son las seis.
And then when we express, we add minutes to the past the hour. And the only thing we do is put the letter E, right, which means and. Son las 4:05, and if I was gonna spell it all out, it would be son las 4:05, right? The 4 hours and 5 minutes, ¿sí? Repitan,
Sí.
son las 4:05.
Son las 4:05.
Son las 11:20.
Son las
11:20.
Okay.
And so now you can see why it's important that you learn your numbers and that you learn how to spell them, right? There are some words that you can replace You can either use cuarto, which means quarter, the quarter of an hour. There are 4 quarters in an hour. Or quince, which is 15. And you can use media, which is half, or 30. People do cuarto and media most often when they're just, you know, talking to one another everyday affairs. But, you know, sometimes people want to sound fancy. Like I imagine the president doesn't say cuarto, he might say quince and 30, you know, a little more formal, right? See? So repitan, cuarto,
Cuarto.
cuarto,
Cuarto.
media.
Media.
Repitan, es la 1:15.
Es la 1:15.
Son las 9:15.
¿Qué es?
Son las 9:15.
Son las 12:30.
Son
las
12:30.
Son las 7:30.
Son
las
7:30.
So many students always ask me, so profe, which one do you want us to use in the test? And I tell them, well, you pick. But if you give me both, I might give you a little half a point extra, right? All right, so what happens if it's past the half hour? We begin to subtract. That doesn't mean that you cannot continue to add, you know, and we haven't learned past 30, but you can indeed say 7 and 35 and 40 and etc. And many people do, and that's not a problem. But most often we begin to subtract to the following hour with the word menos. Menos means minus, right? We learned that menos means minus. So we don't start with the hour we're not adding, we're subtracting, so we have to go to the next hour. And so repitan, es la 1
Es la una
menos cuarto.
menos
cuarto.
And when students see it like this, isn't this the time in this clock?
Yeah.
So when they see this, they start, son las 12, and then we have problems, right? Because you can, but you don't know how to say 45 yet. So if you start with las 12, then you have to say y 45, right? 12 and 45. But we don't know how to tell that yet. So you have to start with la 1, the following hour, which is 1, and then you subtract. ¿Sí? Ok, repitan, es la 1 menos cuarto.
Es la
Es
una
la
menos
una
cuarto.
menos cuarto.
Son las 3 menos 15.
Son
las
3
3
menos 15.
And this is how you would see it in your phone. Son las 8 menos 20.
Son las
Son las
8
8
menos
menos
20.
20.
Son las 3 menos 10.
Son
Son
las
las
3
3
menos
menos
10.
10.
And would this be the numerical form? See? Did I write them okay?
Sí.
So remember, the referent and the reason why we're conjugating the verb where we are, and the reason the article is feminine, is because our referent, our true subject is la hora. La hora, right? And why do we mostly use the plural form?
Because more hours.
Because there's just 1 hour, right? There's just one single hour, and that would be 1. right? And then
Yes,
there are
that one.
11 plural, right? That's why you hear son all the time. And we're out of time, y'all. So it's good to good participation. I will stay here just to see who all was here, and questions or anything. There'll be homework due on Monday, okay? You have homework due on Monday. Questions, complaints, no? Class
When will you post the homework?
Who's asking?
It's Jenny.
Jenny, what about the homework?
When will you post the homework?
It's already posted.
Okay.
It's already on Vistas. And so you may go. I'm gonna stay here, check who all was here, and mark attendance, and you'll have a great weekend and enjoy.
How do you say?
Huh?
How do you say that in Spanish? Have a good weekend.
Disfruten. Oh, I wish I could write it. Disfruten.
Disfruten.
If just me, disfrute. Disfrute el fin de semana. Okay, so it's disfrute is enjoy. Fin and de semana of weekend. Repitan, disfrute.
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 El fin
El fin
de semana.
de semana.
That's more the way we say it, because we do have a good weekend, but that's more English structure. So I prefer to teach you what we use, you know, disfrute, enjoy, disfrute el fin de semana. Tú también, Jenny, ustedes
Gracias.
también, you too. Bye,
Gracias.
bye.
Bye.
Adiós.
Bye, bye.
Adiós.
Adiós.
Chao, chao. Chao, chao, chao.